everybody? I don't know about you, but this is one of my favorite holidays to celebrate together with everyone. In fact, it's one of my favorite holidays to celebrate no matter what. Now, the reason why I love Easter so much, like one of my favorite memories of Easter is every year when I was growing up, we had like an Easter Easter egg decorating contest, and I was probably like the best Easter egg decorator in my town. Like, I was amazing. That's one of my favorite memories of Easter. And see what I mean? Easter is awesome. And not just because of the candy and the games and the good food and the time with family and even like the Easter egg decorating, all that stuff. Easter is something worth celebrating because it's a day that reminds us of something amazing God did to show us that He loves us and wants to be in relationship with us, no matter what. What exactly am I talking about? Well, at Easter, we celebrate the resurrection of Jesus. That word, resurrection, means that Jesus died and came back to life. And that's something worth celebrating because, well, first, I mean, it's just cool. How often does someone just die and then come back to life? Second, it means that death is defeated. Plus, it means that nothing can separate us from God's love. No sin, no mistake, no misstep, no decision. Because of Jesus and what He did for us at Easter, we can know we are loved, accepted, and forgiven by God, no matter what. Now, maybe you're like, cool story and all, but I don't see how Jesus coming back to life has anything to do with me or my life. I mean, how is it even possible for God to love me no matter what? If that's how you feel, then I'd say that I totally understand. I felt that way before too. And honestly, sometimes I still do. Even though I believe in God and know how much He loves me, I also know I'm not perfect. I've made some mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes. And because of that, it can be hard to feel like I really am loved and accepted and forgiven by God no matter what. I think that happens for a lot of reasons. When we make bad choices, it's easy to feel like God's far away. After all, He knows that we cheated on our test, or lied to that adult, or looked at those pictures online, or posted that mean thing about our friend on social media. There's no way He'd want to be close to us, right? I mean, sometimes we feel guilty about the things we've done. And because of that, we hide from God. We stop spending time with Him or talking to Him or showing up at church because we feel like we don't deserve to be there. After what we did, well, it just seems like there's no way God would want much to do with us. And besides, we already feel bad enough about our mistakes. Do we really need God to remind us that what we did was wrong? Or sometimes when we mess up, we feel like God's mad at us. After all, it seems like God wants us to live really good and almost perfect lives, right? It's easy to feel like He's mad when we make mistakes, or that He's disappointed because not only have we messed up, but we keep messing up. We just can't seem to stop making some of our bad choices, and because of that, we feel like God is mad or frustrated or maybe even done with us completely. Big or small, our mistakes have a way of making us feel like after what we've done, no one could actually love and accept us. Nobody could truly forgive us, especially not God. But the good news is, that's where Easter comes in. All that stuff about Jesus dying for our sins and offering us forgiveness, His resurrection making a way for us to be close to God forever, well, it's true. And believing this for ourselves has the power to change everything. To help us see what I'm talking about, let's look at an encounter Jesus had in the New Testament, the part of the Bible that was written after He came to earth. The encounter was with a guy named Peter, one of Jesus' closest friends and followers during His ministry. Now, Peter was a fisherman who completely left his life and career to follow Jesus. He eventually became one of the leaders in the early church and shared the message and hope of Jesus with others. So you'd probably look at a guy like Peter and think he pretty much had it all together. No mistakes, no mess ups, nothing to keep him from being loved and accepted and forgiven by God, right? Not so fast. See, Peter was also known for making some pretty big mistakes. He had a way of acting first and thinking later, which turned into a recipe for a lot of major mess ups in his life. And one of the biggest happened right around Easter. As Jesus was nearing the end of His life, He knew what was coming. He knew that He was going to be captured and killed on a cross. And He knew that this meant a lot of potential pain and danger for His disciples, including Peter. After all, They had dedicated their lives to following Jesus. They were closer to him than anyone. So when Jesus, their leader, was arrested and taken to be killed, of course they'd be in danger of being taken with him. To prepare them for what was ahead, Jesus warned his disciples of the events about to take place. And Peter, well, he promised to stand by Jesus to the death. But when it came down to it, and Jesus actually was arrested, what did Peter do? He denied even knowing Jesus. Not once, not twice, but 3 different times that night. Yikes. Talk about messing up. I can't imagine coming back from that. After Jesus' death, Peter and the other disciples weren't sure what to do. Their friend and teacher had been killed, and they were left alone, afraid, and in Peter's case, guilty. But then, that amazing thing we celebrate at Easter still happened. Jesus rose from the dead. He came back to life, and one of the first things he did was seek out his friends, including Peter. After Jesus' resurrection, his friends actually went back to their old lives. So, Peter went back to being a fisherman. One night, when the disciples were out fishing with no luck, someone from the shore called to them. To the disciples' surprise, it was Jesus. Peter straight up drove right into the water and swam to the shore just to see him again. In his last moments alive, Peter had denied knowing Jesus at all. 3 times. Because of that, you might think that Jesus greeted Peter here with, shall we say, less than a warm welcome, but look at what happened. After breakfast, Jesus asked Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," Peter replied. "You know I love you." "Then feed my lambs," Jesus told him. Jesus repeated the question, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" "Yes, Lord," Peter said. "You know I love you." "Then take care of my sheep," Jesus said. A 3rd time he asked him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was hurt that Jesus asked the question a 3rd time. He said, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Then feed my sheep." Jesus gave Peter a chance to right his wrongs. How many times did Peter deny knowing Jesus? 3. And how many times did Jesus give Peter the chance to show that he loved him? 3. That right there is pretty incredible. I think Jesus knew the guilt Peter must have been carrying around. I think he knew that Peter probably felt like his failures kept him from God's love or forgiveness. But here, Jesus extends not 1, not 2, but 3 chances for Peter to make it right, to be forgiven. And not just that, Jesus wanted Peter to continue to have a place in God's story. So often I think we feel like our own mistakes or failures not only keep us from God's love, but they keep him from wanting to use us for big and important things in this world. But when Jesus asked Peter to take care of his sheep here, he wasn't talking about like actual sheep, though that might be cool. He was talking about his followers, other Christians who would one day come to know and follow Jesus too. That's a pretty big job. And it's one that Jesus offered to Peter because he loved him. He believed in him and knew that his failures weren't the end of the story. And I want you to know that the same is true for you. Your mistakes and mess-ups don't disqualify you from God's love. They don't keep you from being close to him or even being used to do great things for him. Because of Jesus' death and resurrection that we celebrate at Easter, you are forgiven. You are free to be loved by God no matter what. And that's something to celebrate. Easter reminds us we're forgiven no matter what. Jesus didn't move away from Peter when he failed. Instead, Jesus came towards him. And the same is true for us. God moves towards us in the middle of our mistakes, offering us forgiveness and a chance to start again. So today and during this Easter season, I want you to think about what you feel is keeping you from God's love and forgiveness. Is it one bad choice? A series of mistakes? A secret that nobody knows about? Whatever it is, I want you to know that because of Jesus, that thing in your life doesn't have the power to separate you from God's love. It can't keep you from him. Why? Because of Easter. Easter reminds us we're forgiven no matter what. And because you're forgiven, you don't have to worry about being separated from God. So today, make a choice to take one step closer towards God. Maybe for you, that's simply saying a prayer or committing to learn more about him by reading the Bible. Maybe it's listening to worship music and thinking about what the lyrics mean to you. Maybe it's asking for his forgiveness and help to start over. Or maybe it's just showing up at church next week to keep figuring out what you think about faith. Whatever it looks like for you, I want you to try to take a step towards God in your life this week, knowing that there is nothing that can separate you from him. Why? Because Easter reminds us we're forgiven no matter what. Over the past 3 weeks, we've been talking a lot about the Easter season and what Jesus' ultimate sacrifice meant, not only thousands of years ago, but for all of us right now as well. These people in the Bible saw and experienced the resurrection of Jesus with their own eyes. We can believe it's true because they shared about it with us. Through John's story, we're reminded that we're loved no matter what. The task of spreading the word of Jesus' resurrection was given to Mary Magdalene, showing us that we're important no matter what. And we just learned through Peter's experience that with Jesus, that we're forgiven no matter what. Because Jesus died and came back to life for all of us. We're loved, important, and forgiven no matter what. Nothing can change that. I think that's something to celebrate. As we go into groups today, you'll have a chance to talk about all the things we're reminded of and celebrate at Easter. We've created these groups so that you have a place to talk honestly about what you're learning here. They're a place you can speak up with your questions, celebrate big steps you take in faith, and encourage each other to keep going and believing God's best for your lives. Sharing with your group might be the best step you take towards God in your life right now.